Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining me today in this session. I'm sorry that I had to record this session because of the customer's demand on my time. But if you have any questions, please don't forget to type them up in the text or at the video on the YouTube channel, and I'll make sure that I will address your questions when I get back to it. Today, we have a very interesting topic that I bring to you. I was discussing with some of my colleagues here, and they asked me, what can digital Lean Six Sigma be applied to? And my response was, anything. Anything in your life can utilize digital Lean Six Sigma for improving the processes. And one of the colleagues says, oh, can it be applied to matrimonial harmony or marital relationships? And I said, yes. So they challenged me to explain, and this is how we came up with this concept for today's session. So what I'm going to talk about, how to improve your marital relationships, can digital Lean Six Sigma help? Okay, so the first question that one should ask is, why do people get married in the first place? And generally, that is what you should ask each other when you are trying to figure out how to improve matrimonial harmony or improve your relationships. Why did we get married in the first place? Generally, the response to these questions or this question is, well, for love and companionship. And why do we want to stay married? Well, sometimes that we continue to love each other. We want the continued companionship, as well as when the children get involved, we want to provide a safe and loving foundation in a home environment to our offsprings, our children. So excellence in marriage really requires persistent nurturing. You need to continue to work at it. And once you do a process improvement project, you need to place controls on it. And that's what I'm going to walk you through, how you do that. And, each individual couple is going to have their own set of values, set of things. So they have to basically utilize these tools in a fashion that I'm going to demonstrate to come up with a strategy to improve their matrimonial harmony, their relationship within the marriage. Now, there are 3 steps in the performance improvement. First, the very first thing that you have to do is to be completely honest in assessing your current situation. That I cannot overemphasize that. You have to be really honest if you want to make an improvement, to make sure that you communicate and share the things that you have to in order to make that improvement. Then you have to together envision the desired outcome. Well, what do you want from this relationship? What is your desired outcome after you do this performance improvement exercise? Well, do you want a more fulfilling and satisfying relationship? Do you want to strengthen the bond of love that got you into this relationship? And do you want to strengthen the family unit? And it may be that you want all 3 of them. That's okay. So you have to really envision that desired state, and then you have to come up and work together to come up with an action plan to bridge the gap. Obviously, you want to utilize these tools because your desired state is not there. You want to bridge the gap between your desired state and the current state. So that's what you need to work on. Then in Digital Lean Six Sigma, what we do talk about generally is KPIs. And what that means is key performance indicators. How are you going to measure the performance of your relationship between each other? And that is what you have to define upfront so that you can measure the performance at the current time and then see if you are making improvements on that. So you can develop a baseline. And that is very important. So key performance indicators in this kind of things, you can say, okay, well, what are we getting out of this relationship? Is it a positive experience? And a positive experience is something, actions or things that you do together or things that are involved in the relationship that will strengthen that bond of love that got you into the marriage. And you can measure that as well. You can say, okay, how much does it strengthen our relationship? How much joy do we get out of it on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 9? You can define that, and then based on that, you can put a number to that feeling of strengthening, of love, of joy that you get out of relationship. Well, the second key performance indicator is neutrality. Are there actions that we take that does not affect at all, either positively or negatively? And the next one is very important, to define the boundaries where you don't want to go or what you don't want to cross. And that is a negative experience. And again, the negative experience can also be defined by a number. How strongly negative it is, -1 to -9. Is it a minor nuisance, or is it something that will lead to a breakup or will lead to a discussion about breakup? So those are the things that you have to put down together in terms of key performance indicators. Now, another thing, so once you have defined your key performance indicator, that's what is going to be your output of the performance improvement project. Another thing that you will see on the screen that we define in Digital Lean Six Sigma is a input process output diagram. And when you involve customers as well as suppliers, then it becomes a SIPOC diagram, which means suppliers that provide you input that goes into the process that deliver an output to the customers. Now, you might say, okay, who is the customer and who is the supplier in this relationship? Well, both of the spouses are customers as well as suppliers. Spouse 1, let's say, is a supplier to spouse 2, who is a customer. And then spouse 2 is a supplier when spouse 1 is a customer. So you become customers as well as suppliers. Now, what are the inputs in a relationship? Well, personalities that are shaped by values, attitudes, habits, capabilities, that skills that you bring with you, conflict management, anger management, things like that. Intimacy, the time that you spend together, that you spend apart, that you spend alone, that you spend with family, socially, at work, all that. Children, finances, household responsibilities are also an input. And personal expectations out of the relationship become an input. And the process is mutual relationship, marital bond, love, however you want to define it or mention it, that is your process. And what are the outcomes or outputs? Outputs are a positive experience, a neutral experience, or a negative experience. Then the customers I have already defined are both spouses, as you can see on the screen. Now, in order to do a root cause analysis, what we use in Digital Lean Six Sigma, a fishbone diagram or a cause and effect diagram, where you put at the head of the fish the issue that you want to address, and then from the SIPOC that you have done in the previous slide, you bring key variables and group them into different categories. For example, what I have done here to give you an idea how you develop that fishbone diagram for your own relationship is that I have done a major category for finances. On this side is personalities, and then household tasks, and then time factor. So there are 4 major categories that I have divided everything into. Now, in terms of finances, spouse 1 has an income, spouse 2 has an income, and you might have some joint income. So if you have some joint investments or you have had a joint property purchase and things like that. So finances are there is an income. Then there is the other side to the finances is spending. Spouse 1 has some spending habits, spouse 2 some spending habits, and then you have spending that you do together, and then you spend on children and so forth. Or one spouse spends on the other spouse. That is also a spending habit. Personalities. Well, in terms of personalities, you bring your capabilities and skills that may include the conflict management skills, anger management skills, good and bad habits, your values. They may involve social values, spiritual values, and intimacy between the two of you, and the expectation from the relationship that you have. They all are packaged under personalities. Then you have household tasks. You might have divided household tasks, how you're going to do it, what is the spouse 1 responsibility, what is spouse 2's responsibility, and who is taking those responsibilities seriously. And then there might be a factor that you can include is that taking responsibility for household tasks, even when it's not within your desired responsibilities, that might please your spouse, the other spouse. So that is something I have placed an X, which means that this is something that you can experiment with and see how doing that improves your marital relationship. Again, in time, there is time that you spend as a family. There is social time that you spend in your relation circles and among your friends circles, time you spend with your children, time you spend together, only the two of you, and time you spend at work. Some of that might not be in your control because you want to maintain that income and so forth. So that's why I have labeled time you spend in family, that is in your control. You can do that. Not spending extra time on your work is also in your control. So you can label that as a control variable. And you want to experiment that how much time you spend together, how much time you spend alone or with your children. And you want to vary that and see how, and that's why I label them as axes. Once you have done this fishbone diagram, you have listed all the variables, and you can divide them into, as I said, 3 different categories. N means no control. You don't have much control over how much you earn. It depends on your skills and things like that and the job you have. And changing that might require a lot of effort and time, which is not going to be a quick fix. So that is probably a noise variable. Some of the capabilities you currently have, you can improve them, obviously, but at the current time, it is a noise factor, and so forth. Your social and spiritual values may not be debatable, and that might be another noise factor. But the C's are the ones that you can control, and that's why I put them in C's. And using these variables, then you can translate or transfer them into the next slide, as you will see here. On this slide, I have put them into issues on the left side, and what I call this is a prioritization matrix. So you and your spouse can sit together, and on the right side of this slide, you see that the same issues on the left are placed on the top, and I have placed some red markers. That means that those comparisons are not possible. But at the bottom, I'm comparing each issue with the on the top with each issue on the left side of that matrix. And if my expectation is more important than my intimacy, then expectations go into that cell over there. It says A. That means expectation is more important to me than intimacy. Then the time together is more important than my expectation being met. Then that is what is going into that cell, and that's why I say C. So you fill that matrix completely by doing a pairwise comparison between each individual variable for all the variables that you labeled as C. And then you can also, once you have done that, you get this graph that is shown as prioritization Pareto. And that graph, what it shows me, that to me, time spent together just between the two spouses is the most important. Then second most important are the expectations that I have from this relationship to be met. And the third most important thing is intimacy between the two spouses. And then the time I have to myself is more important, and so on and so forth. So this is how that can be categorized. And then you can look at them and see, well, time together, how much joy do I get out of it? And on a scale of 1 to 9, and you can do a full-fledged design of experiment. That is a very advanced topic, and I would like to just mention it and leave it here. So really, this way you can have a methodology to openly communicate with each other and set some boundaries and see what will help you improve your relationship, and experiment with them. And once you have improved your relationship, put some controls in place, put some measures in place that you will continue to do to nurture that relationship so it grows better and better. The bond of love grows more and more. Thank you very much for being with me today. Please follow us if you like our videos. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The address and email address and the phone number is there. If you have any questions, if you like more information, please send us an email or call us. Also, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next episode. Thank you.